bear cub locked in a subway token booth after hours. What this baby did was shocking. Let us know where you're watching from. If you love my content, consider supporting it with a super thanks. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It'll help us to remain in touch with amazing people like you. The old subway station felt different at 2:47 a.m. Maya Chen pressed her face against the cold window of her small apartment that sat right above the central station platform. The fluorescent lights below flickered like dying stars, casting strange shadows across the empty tracks. She couldn't sleep again. The baby had been restless all evening, and now little Zara was finally quiet in her crib, but Maya's mind kept racing. Something was wrong down there. She could feel it. Maya had lived in this tiny apartment for 3 years now, ever since her husband left. The rent was cheap because of the constant noise during the day, but she had grown to love the rhythm of the trains. At night, though, when everything went silent, the station became a different world. A world that sometimes held secrets. She grabbed her worn purple robe and stepped closer to the window. The token booth sat in the center of the platform like a glass cage, empty as always since they switched to digital cards 5 years ago. But tonight, something moved inside it. Maya squinted through the dim light. Her heart began to race as she realized what she was looking at. A small, dark shape was pressed against the inner glass of the booth. It was too big to be a rat, too small to be a person. The shape moved again, and Maya saw tiny paws scratching against the glass desperately. "Oh my God," she whispered, her breath fogging the window. It was a bear cub. A real, living bear cub trapped inside the old token booth. Maya blinked hard, thinking she must be seeing things. But when she looked again, the cub was still there, its small black nose pressed against the glass, its tiny body shaking with what looked like fear or cold. How could a bear cub possibly end up locked in a subway station in downtown Portland? The cub let out a small cry that somehow reached Maya's ears through the thick glass of her window. The sound pierced straight through her chest. It was the same helpless cry her baby Zara made when she was scared or hungry. Pure, innocent distress. Maya's hands trembled as she reached for her phone to call someone. Anyone. But who would believe her? And what if they thought she was crazy? She was already struggling to make ends meet, already walking on thin ice with the building manager who complained about Zara's crying. She looked back down at the cub. It had stopped scratching now and was just sitting there, looking up through the glass ceiling of the booth as if it knew someone was watching. Even from this distance, Maya could see something in its dark eyes that made her chest tighten with emotion. The cub was alone, just like she was, just like Zara was. Behind her, Zara stirred in her sleep, making soft baby sounds. Maya glanced back at her daughter's crib, then returned to the window. The cub was still there, still looking up, still waiting for help that might never come. Maya made a decision that would change everything. She quietly grabbed her jacket and keys, checked on sleeping Zara one more time, and headed for the door. She had to get a closer look. She had to know if this was real. The building's back door led directly to the platform stairs. Maya had used this route hundreds of times during the day, but never at night. Never when the station belonged to shadows and silence. Her footsteps echoed strangely as she descended, each step bringing her closer to something she couldn't quite understand. The platform felt enormous in the darkness. Maya walked slowly toward the token booth, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. As she got closer, she could see the cub more clearly through the glass walls. It was definitely real. Small, maybe 3 months old, with dark brown fur and the roundest, most frightened eyes Maya had ever seen. The cub pressed itself against the glass as Maya approached, not running away, but seeming to ask for help in the only way it knew how. "How did you get in there, little one?" Maya whispered, kneeling down so she was at eye level with the cub. The booth's door was locked tight with an old metal padlock that looked like it hadn't been opened in years. There were no broken windows, no holes big enough for even a small animal to squeeze through. It was like the cub had simply appeared inside, trapped in a glass prison with no way out. Maya pressed her palm against the glass, and the cub immediately pressed its tiny paw against the same spot from the inside. The warmth of the moment made Maya's eyes fill with tears. This little creature trusted her already, somehow knew she wanted to help. That's when Maya heard the footsteps. The sound echoed through the empty station like gunshots, heavy boots against concrete, getting closer with each step. Maya's blood turned to ice as she realized she wasn't alone down here. Someone else was in the station at nearly 3 a.m, and they were walking straight toward her. Maya quickly stood up and looked around for somewhere to hide, but the platform was too open, too exposed. The footsteps were coming from the main entrance stairs, the same way she had come down. She was trapped between the token booth and whoever was approaching. The cub seemed to sense the danger, too. It pressed itself against the back wall of the booth, trying to make itself as small as possible. Its tiny body was shaking even more now, and Maya could hear soft whimpering sounds coming from inside the glass cage. "Hello?" a voice called out through the darkness. It was a man's voice, rough and tired. "Someone down there?" Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. She wanted to run back to her apartment, back to safety, but something kept her frozen in place. Maybe it was the way the cub was looking at her through the glass, those dark eyes filled with trust and hope. She couldn't abandon it now. The footsteps got closer, and finally Maya saw him. A security guard emerged from the shadows, flashlight in hand, scanning the platform with its bright beam. He was older, maybe in his 60s, with gray hair and a slight limp. His uniform looked wrinkled, like he'd been sleeping somewhere. "Ma'am?" the guard called out when his flashlight found Maya standing by the token booth. "What are you doing down here? Station's been closed for hours." Maya opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. How could she possibly explain this situation? That she lived upstairs and saw a bear cub trapped in the booth? It sounded crazy even to her. The guard walked closer, his flashlight beam dancing between Maya and the token booth. "You okay, miss? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I Dot." Maya finally found her voice. "I live in the apartment upstairs. I couldn't sleep and I saw—" She pointed toward the booth with a shaking hand. "There's something in there." The guard followed her gaze and shined his flashlight directly into the token booth. The beam hit the glass walls and reflected back, making it hard to see inside clearly. The cub had hidden itself in the far corner, almost invisible in the shadows. "I don't see anything," the guard said, squinting through the glass. "What did you think you saw?" "Look closer," Maya whispered. "In the back corner." The guard adjusted his flashlight angle and moved closer to the booth. For a long moment he just stared through the glass. Then Maya saw his expression change completely. His eyes went wide and his mouth dropped open. "Sweet Jesus," he breathed. "Is that what I think it is?" The cub, caught in the flashlight beam, had nowhere to hide now. It looked even smaller and more frightened under the harsh light, its fur damp with what might have been tears if bears could cry. "How in God's name did a bear cub get locked in there?" the guard asked, more to himself than to Maya. He walked around the booth slowly, examining every angle. "This makes no sense. No sense at all." Maya felt a small relief that someone else could see what she was seeing. She wasn't going crazy. This was really happening. "We have to get it out," Maya said urgently. "It's scared and probably hungry. It might die in there." The guard nodded, but his face was troubled. "The thing is, miss, I don't have the key to this booth. Nobody does. This thing's been locked up tight since they stopped using tokens. The key went missing years ago, and the city never bothered to get a new lock because there was nothing valuable inside." "Then how did the cub get in there?" Maya asked. "That's what I'd like to know." The guard shined his light all around the booth again, looking for any possible entry point. No broken glass, no holes, no nothing. It's like the little guy just appeared inside. The cub made another soft crying sound, and Maya felt her heart break a little more. She pressed both hands against the glass, trying to let the animal know it wasn't alone. "What's your name?" Maya asked the guard. "Frank," he replied, still staring at the booth in confusion. "Frank Morrison. Been working security here for 12 years, and I've never seen anything like this. I'm Maya. I live right upstairs with my baby daughter." She pointed toward her apartment window. "Frank, we have to do something. We can't just leave it in there." Frank nodded slowly. "You're right. But breaking this glass is going to set off alarms, wake up half the city, and probably get me fired. Plus, we don't know where this cub came from. Could be dangerous. Could be sick." "Look at it," Maya said softly. "Does it look dangerous to you?" Frank looked down at the small, trembling creature in the booth. The cub had moved closer to the glass again, drawn by their voices. It was pressing its nose against the barrier, breath fogging the glass in tiny circles. "No," Frank admitted. "It looks scared out of its mind." That's when they heard something else. A sound that made both Maya and Frank freeze in place. It was coming from somewhere in the darkness beyond the platform, echoing through the tunnels. A deep, rumbling growl, much larger than anything a small cub could make. "Oh no," Frank whispered, grabbing Maya's arm. "Please tell me that's not what I think it is." The growling got louder, closer. Something big was moving through the subway tunnels, heading straight for the platform. The cub in the booth became agitated, pressing against the glass and making urgent crying sounds as if trying to warn them. Maya's mind raced. If the cub was here, then somewhere in these dark tunnels was its mother. And if Mama Bear found humans near her trapped baby, there was no telling what might happen. "We need to get out of here," Frank said, backing away from the booth. "Now." But Maya couldn't move. She was staring at the cub, seeing something in its eyes that made her chest tighten with emotion. The little bear wasn't just scared anymore. It was trying to communicate something urgent, something important. The growling echoed louder through the tunnels, and Maya realized with growing horror that it wasn't coming from just one direction. There were multiple sounds, multiple creatures moving through the darkness toward them. "Frank," Maya whispered, "I don't think we're dealing with just one bear." The old security guard's face went pale in the flashlight's glow. "What are you saying?" Before Maya could answer, the first massive shape emerged from the tunnel entrance. A full-grown black bear, easily 6 feet tall when it reared up on its hind legs. Its eyes reflected the flashlight beam like amber mirrors, and its massive paws made scraping sounds against the concrete as it stepped onto the platform. But this bear wasn't acting aggressive. It was moving carefully, almost cautiously, its head tilted as if listening for something. When it saw the token booth, it let out a low, mournful sound that was somehow both powerful and heartbreaking. "That's Mama," Maya breathed. "She's looking for her baby." The mother bear approached the booth slowly, and the cub inside went wild with excitement, jumping up and pawing at the glass, making happy chirping sounds Maya didn't know bears could make. Frank was backing toward the stairs, his flashlight shaking in his hands. "Miss, we really need to leave. Right now." But Maya couldn't tear herself away from the scene unfolding in front of her. The mother bear was pressing her massive paws against the glass, trying to reach her cub. The love and desperation in her movements was so raw, so human-like, that tears began flowing down Maya's cheeks. That's when the second growl echoed from the opposite tunnel. Then a third. Then a fourth. "Oh, God," Frank whispered. "There's a whole pack of them." More bears began emerging from different tunnel entrances around the platform. But something was strange about all of this. The bears weren't acting wild or aggressive. They moved with purpose, like they were searching for something specific. And they all seemed focused on the token booth. Maya counted them as they appeared. 7 adult bears, all different sizes, all approaching the booth with the same careful, almost reverent behavior. It was like they were gathering for some kind of ceremony. "This isn't possible," Frank muttered. "Bears don't travel in groups like this. They're solitary animals." But Maya was starting to understand something that Frank couldn't see yet. Something about the way the bears moved, the way they positioned themselves around the booth, the way they all seemed to be waiting for something to happen. "Frank," she said quietly, "I don't think these are ordinary bears." Before the guard could ask what she meant, something extraordinary happened. The largest bear, a massive male with a distinctive white patch on his chest, stood up on his hind legs and placed both paws against the token booth's glass. He closed his eyes and began making a deep, rhythmic sound that was part growl, part song. One by one, the other bears joined in. Soon, the entire platform was filled with an otherworldly harmony of bear voices, all focused on the small cub trapped in the glass cage. Maya felt the sound vibrating through her entire body. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, like nothing she had ever experienced. The cub inside the booth had stopped crying and was listening intently, as if the adult bears were trying to tell it something important. "What are they doing?" Frank whispered. Maya shook her head slowly. She didn't know, but she could feel that they were witnessing something extraordinary, something that might change everything she thought she knew about the world. The bear song continued, growing stronger and more complex, and as it did, Maya noticed something impossible happening to the token booth itself. The metal frame was beginning to vibrate, and tiny hairline cracks were appearing in the glass walls. The bears weren't just singing. They were somehow breaking the booth open with sound alone. Maya watched in amazement as the cracks in the glass spread like spider webs across the booth's walls. The sound the bears were making wasn't just noise, it was something ancient, something that seemed to reach into the very atoms of the glass and metal and convince them to let go of their grip on each other. "This isn't happening," Frank whispered, his voice barely audible over the bear song. "This can't be happening." But it was happening. Right in front of them, the impossible was becoming real. The token booth that had stood unchanged for 5 years was slowly coming apart, piece by piece, without any violence or force. Just pure sound, pure intention, pure love between a mother and her trapped child. Maya felt tears streaming down her face as she watched the largest bear, the one with the white chest patch, never break eye contact with the small cub inside. The love in that gaze was so powerful it made Maya think of her own daughter sleeping upstairs, and how she would move heaven and earth to protect Zara from any harm. The glass finally gave way, with a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Not the crash Maya expected, but a musical tinkling as pieces fell softly to the platform floor. The bears immediately stopped their song, and the sudden silence felt almost sacred. The mother bear reached into the booth with infinite gentleness and lifted her cub out with her massive paws. The little one squeaked with joy and nuzzled against her fur, safe at last in the arms that had been searching for him all night. Maya sobbed openly now, overwhelmed by the pure beauty of the reunion. But her tears of joy quickly turned to confusion when she noticed something that made no sense at all. The other bears weren't celebrating. They weren't gathering around the mother and cub like she expected. Instead, they had formed a perfect circle around Maya and Frank, and they were all staring directly at the two humans with an intelligence that made Maya's skin crawl. "Frank," she whispered, "why are they looking at us like that?" Frank was too terrified to speak. His flashlight was shaking so badly that the beam danced wildly across the platform, casting crazy shadows in all directions. The largest bear, the one who had led the song, stepped forward. He was still carrying the cub in one massive paw, but his attention was completely focused on Maya. When he spoke, Maya's world tilted completely off its axis. "Thank you," the bear said, in a deep, rumbling voice that was clearly words, clearly English, clearly impossible. "Thank you for caring about our young one." Maya's legs gave out. She collapsed to her knees on the cold platform, staring up at a talking bear while her mind tried desperately to process what was happening. Behind her, she heard Frank's flashlight clatter to the ground as he too succumbed to shock. You can talk?" Maya stammered. The bear nodded slowly. "We can do many things your kind has forgotten are possible. But talking is one of our simpler gifts." He looked down at the cub in his arms with infinite tenderness. "This little one is very special to us. When he became trapped, we felt his fear from miles away." "But how did he get trapped in there?" Maya asked, her voice barely a whisper. The bear's expression grew sad. "That is a longer story than we have time for tonight. But I will tell you this much. Your world and ours are connected in ways most humans never understand. Sometimes those connections create accidents." Another bear, smaller and with distinctive silver streaks through her dark fur, stepped forward. When she spoke, her voice was gentler, more musical than the male's. The child was playing in what you might call the spaces between worlds. He slipped through a crack and found himself trapped in your reality in that glass cage. Maya's mind reeled. "Spaces between worlds? You mean like other dimensions?" "Something like that," the silver-streaked bear confirmed. "Your people used to know about these places, used to respect them, but you've forgotten so much over the centuries." Frank finally found his voice, though it came out as barely more than a croak. "This is insane. Bears don't talk. Bears don't use magic to break glass. This is all some kind of hallucination." The largest bear turned his attention to Frank, and Maya saw something shift in those intelligent eyes. "You are afraid. That is understandable. But fear will not change what you have witnessed tonight." "What do you want from us?" Maya asked, struggling to her feet. "Why are you telling us this?" The bear looked at her for a long moment before answering. "Because you showed kindness to our young one when you could have simply ignored his plight. Because you have a pure heart, Maya Chen." Maya's blood turned to ice. "How do you know my name?" "We know many things about those who live at the crossing points." Another bear spoke up. This one was smaller, with patches of brown and black fur mixed together. "Your apartment sits directly above one of the oldest gateways between our worlds. You've been living on sacred ground for 3 years without knowing it." "Gateway?" Maya's voice was getting higher with each word. "What kind of gateway?" The silver-streaked female answered. "A place where our reality touches yours, where those with the right kind of heart can sometimes see across the divide. Your daughter has this gift as well." Maya's maternal instincts flared to life. What does Zara have to do with this? She's just a baby. Innocent souls see most clearly, the largest bear explained. Children and those with pure hearts are naturally drawn to the crossing points. They sense things others cannot. As if summoned by the mention of her name, a soft crying sound drifted down from Maya's apartment window. Zara was awake, and from the tone of her cries, she was frightened. I have to go to her, Maya said, taking a step toward the stairs. But the circle of bears didn't move to let her pass. The largest one spoke again, and this time there was urgency in his voice. Wait, there is more you must understand before you return to your child. More? Maya felt panic rising in her chest. What more? The gateway beneath your home has been growing stronger lately, more active. We believe someone or something has been trying to force it open from the other side. Frank, who had been silent through this entire impossible conversation, suddenly spoke up. Wait a minute. You said this kid got trapped by accident. But now you're saying someone's trying to force open some kind of portal? That doesn't sound like an accident to me. The bears exchanged glances that were so human-like it made Maya dizzy. Finally, the silver-streaked female spoke. You are perceptive, for one so frightened. You are correct. This was not entirely an accident. Maya felt the world spinning around her. What are you saying? Someone knew about the cub's ability to slip between worlds. Someone used him as a test probe, to see how strong the barriers have become. Someone used a baby? Maya's voice cracked with outrage. Someone used a child to test some kind of magical portal? The largest bear's eyes flashed with anger that made Maya step backward. Yes, and that someone is still out there, still trying to break through, still willing to use innocent lives to achieve their goals. Above them, Zara's crying was getting louder, more desperate. Maya looked up at her apartment window and saw a shadow moving across the glass. But it was the wrong shape, wrong size to be her baby daughter. Oh, God, Maya breathed. There's someone in my apartment. The bears followed her gaze, and suddenly the entire group was moving. Not toward the stairs like Maya expected, but spreading out across the platform in a defensive formation that spoke of long experience with danger. Frank, the largest bear commanded, take Maya and go to the apartment through the back entrance. Quickly and quietly. We will follow, but we cannot use the human pathways. What are you going to do? Maya asked, already running toward the stairs with Frank close behind her. What we should have done years ago, the silver-streaked female called after them. Protect the gateway at all costs. Maya took the stairs 3 at a time, her heart hammering with terror for her daughter. Behind her, she could hear Frank breathing heavily as he struggled to keep up. But underneath their footsteps, she heard something else that made her blood run cold, the sound of glass breaking. Not the gentle musical sound of the bears freeing the cub, but the harsh, violent crash of windows being smashed from the inside out. Maya burst through the back door of her building and raced up the narrow staircase to her apartment. The door was standing wide open, swinging gently in the breeze from her shattered living room window. Zara! Maya screamed, rushing into the apartment. The crib was empty. Her baby daughter was gone, and in her place was a note written in handwriting that seemed to shift and change as Maya looked at it. The child for the gateway, the note read. You have 1 hour. Come alone to the old subway tunnel beneath Platform 7. Bring the bear cub. If you want to see your daughter again, you will open the door we need opened. Maya's legs gave out again. She collapsed beside the empty crib, clutching the note while sobs racked her entire body. Someone had taken Zara, someone who knew about the bears, about the gateway, about everything that had happened tonight. Frank appeared in the doorway, breathing hard from the climb. When he saw Maya collapsed on the floor, his face went white. "Where's the baby?" "Gone," Maya sobbed. "They took her. They want me to trade the bear cub for my daughter." That's when the largest bear appeared in the shattered window opening. Somehow, impossibly, he had climbed the outside of the building and was now crouched on Maya's fire escape, still holding the small cub in his arms. "We heard," he said simply. "We smelled the intruder's scent. We know who has taken your child." Maya looked up at him through her tears. Who? Who would do this?" The bear's expression was grim. "Someone who has been trying to break through the barriers between worlds for a very long time. Someone who believes that sacrificing innocent lives is acceptable if it serves their greater purpose." "A person?" Frank asked. "Or something else?" "Both." The silver-streaked female appeared at another window. "A human who has learned to work with forces from the other side. Someone who has been watching this gateway for months, waiting for the right moment to act." Maya forced herself to stand, wiping tears from her face. "I don't care who it is or what they want. I'm getting my daughter back." "It's not that simple," the largest bear warned. "If you give them what they want, if you help them open the gateway fully, you will endanger both our worlds. The consequences could be catastrophic." "Then, what am I supposed to do?" Maya screamed. "Let them kill my baby?" The bear's eyes softened with compassion. "We fight, together. But first, you must understand exactly what we're dealing with." He stepped carefully through the window into Maya's small apartment, his massive frame making the space feel even tinier. The cub in his arms was looking around with bright, curious eyes, apparently untraumatized by the night's events. "The person who took your daughter calls himself Dr. Marcus Eldritch. He was once a respected scientist who studied what your people call paranormal phenomena. But his research led him down dark paths. He learned about the gateways, about our world, about the power that flows between realities." Maya was pacing now, too agitated to stand still. "I don't care about his life story. Where's he keeping Zara?" "Platform 7 is not just another subway stop," the bear continued. "It was built over one of the most powerful crossing points in this city. Dr. Eldritch has been working to corrupt that gateway for months, trying to turn it into a permanent bridge between worlds." "Why?" Frank asked. "What does he want?" The silver-streaked female answered from her perch at the window. "Power. There are beings in our world, dark beings, who have promised him abilities beyond human imagination if he can give them access to your reality." Maya stopped pacing and stared at the bears. "Are you saying there are evil things in your world that want to come here?" "Just as there is good and evil among humans, there is light and darkness in our realm," the largest bear confirmed. "The beings Dr. Eldritch serves are among the darkest. If they gain a foothold in your world, both realities will suffer." "But why take Zara?" Maya's voice broke as she said her daughter's name. "She's just a baby. She can't hurt anyone." The bear's expression grew even more grave. "Children who live at the crossing point sometimes develop special abilities as they grow. Your daughter has the potential to become a bridge walker, someone who can move freely between worlds. Dr. Eldritch believes that if he corrupts her innocent spirit, he can use her as a living key to unlock the gateway permanently." Maya felt like she was going to be sick. "He wants to hurt my baby to open some kind of magical door?" "Worse than hurt," the silver-streaked female said quietly. "To use a child as a living key, he would have to bind her spirit to the gateway itself. She would be trapped there forever, conscious but unable to live or die, forced to hold the door open for the dark beings to pass through. Maya's world went red with rage. She had never felt such pure, consuming fury in her entire life. "I'll kill him. I'll tear him apart with my bare hands." "Your anger is justified," the largest bear said. "But anger alone will not save your daughter. We need a plan." "What kind of plan?" Frank asked. He had been quiet through most of this explanation, but now Maya could see determination replacing the fear in his eyes. "Tell us what to do." The bear looked at each of them carefully before speaking. "Doctor, Eldritch expects you to come alone and frightened, willing to trade anything for your child's safety. Instead, we will give him something he doesn't expect." "What's that?" Maya asked. The bear smiled, and the expression was both beautiful and terrifying on his massive face. "A mother's love backed by the full power of both our worlds." Before Maya could ask what he meant, she heard footsteps in the hallway outside her apartment. Multiple sets of footsteps, moving quickly and purposefully toward her door. "More bears," Frank whispered. The largest bear shook his head grimly. "Number Dr. Eldritch has sent his human servants to make sure you follow his instructions. They're coming to escort you to Platform 7. Maya heard voices in the hallway now, rough, commanding voices discussing how to handle the situation and secure the package. "What do we do?" Maya whispered urgently. The bear gently placed the cub on Maya's kitchen counter and moved toward the door. "We show them what happens when someone threatens the innocent." The apartment door burst open, and 3 men in dark clothing rushed in. They were clearly expecting to find a frightened single mother, alone and helpless. Instead, they found themselves face to face with a massive talking bear whose eyes were glowing with protective fury. The first man's scream was cut short as the bear's paw swept him aside like he weighed nothing. The second man tried to pull out some kind of weapon, but the silver-streaked female had climbed through the window behind him and knocked him unconscious before he could even aim. The third man was smarter. He didn't try to fight. Instead, he held up his hands and spoke quickly. "Wait," Dr. Eldritch said to tell you. "Any violence against his men and the baby dies immediately. He's watching everything through our cameras." Maya's rage evaporated, replaced by cold terror. She looked around and noticed for the first time that all 3 men were wearing small cameras mounted on their shoulders. "Hello, Maya," a cultured voice spoke from one of the cameras. "I trust you can hear me. As you can see, I've made some adjustments to my original plan." Maya stared at the tiny camera lens, her whole body shaking with a mixture of fear and fury. The voice that came through the small speaker was smooth, educated, almost pleasant, which somehow made it even more terrifying. "Dr. Eldritch," the largest bear growled, his voice filled with ancient hatred. "We should have stopped you years ago." A chuckle came through the camera. "Ah, my old friends have finally decided to show themselves. How delightful. I was wondering when you would emerge from whatever magical realm you've been hiding in." "Where is my daughter?" Maya demanded, stepping closer to the camera despite the bear's protective gesture to hold her back. "Safe, for now." The voice carried a hint of amusement that made Maya's skin crawl. "She's such a beautiful child, Maya, such potential. I can already sense the power flowing through her tiny veins. She's going to be perfect for what I need." Frank, who had been quietly standing in the corner, suddenly spoke up. "You're talking about a baby, you sick freak. What kind of monster uses a baby for anything? The kind of monster who understands that sometimes great achievements require great sacrifices," Dr. Eldritch replied coldly. "But I'm not unreasonable. I'm prepared to make you an offer, Maya." Maya clenched her fists so hard her nails drew blood from her palms. "I'm listening. Bring me the bear cub." Come to Platform 7 alone, as originally planned. But here's the new part. Bring your magical friends with you. All of them." The bears exchanged glances that clearly meant something significant. The silver-streaked female spoke in a low voice. "He's trying to trap us all in one place." Dr. Eldritch's voice continued through the camera. "I can hear you, my dear. And yes, you're absolutely correct. You see, I've made some upgrades to Platform 7 since we last met. I now have the ability to contain even your kind of magic." "What do you want with all of us?" the largest bear demanded. "Simple. I need more power to complete the gateway opening. One human child, even one as special as little Zara, isn't quite enough to create a permanent bridge between worlds. But add several adult bridgewalkers like yourselves, plus the dimensional energy from the cub who can slip between realities." The voice trailed off with satisfaction. "Well, that should provide more than enough spiritual energy to keep the gateway open permanently." Maya felt sick. "You want to kill all of us?" "Kill? Oh no, my dear, death would be wasteful. I need you alive and conscious to serve as living conduits. You'll be aware of everything that's happening, but unable to act or escape. Think of it as eternal community service." The bear cub, who had been quietly sitting on Maya's kitchen counter throughout this conversation, suddenly made a series of chirping sounds that seemed almost like words. The adult bears immediately became very alert, their heads tilted as if listening to something important. "What is he saying?" Maya asked. The silver-streaked female's eyes went wide. "He says there are others. Other children like your daughter scattered across the city. Dr. Eldritch has been collecting them for months." Maya's legs nearly gave out again. "Other babies?" "Not just babies," Dr. Eldritch's voice confirmed with disturbing pride. "Children of various ages, all living near crossing points, all developing bridge-walking abilities. I now have 7 in total, including your precious Zara. 7 young lives to power my gateway." Frank cursed under his breath. "You're talking about murdering 7 kids. I'm talking about transforming 7 children into something greater than they could ever be alone," Dr. Eldritch corrected, with the tone of someone explaining something obvious to a child. "They will become living bridges between worlds, conscious doorways that will allow unlimited travel between realities. They should be honored." Maya was beyond rage now. She was in a place of cold, calculating fury that surprised even her. "Where are the other children?" "Some are with their families, who are cooperating with my research. Others are staying in my private facility. All are safe and well cared for, I assure you." "Liar!" the largest bear snarled. "We can smell the fear and pain from here. Those children are terrified." "Perhaps a little frightened," Dr. Eldritch conceded. "But that's normal when one is about to undergo such a profound transformation. Now, let's discuss the terms of our arrangement." "There is no arrangement," Maya said firmly. "I'm not helping you hurt any children." "Oh, but you are. Because if you don't arrive at Platform 7 within the next 45 minutes, little Zara will be the first child to undergo the transformation process. And I promise you, Maya, you do not want your daughter to go through that alone." Maya looked desperately at the bears. "Can't you just, I don't know, use your magic to find where he's keeping them?" The silver-streaked female shook her head sadly. "He's learned to shield his operations from our sight. We can sense that the children are somewhere in the city, but the exact location is hidden from us." "However," the largest bear said thoughtfully, "there might be another way." "What way?" Maya asked urgently. The bear looked at the cub on the counter. "Little ones who can slip between realities sometimes retain traces of everywhere they've been. If our young friend here was used as a test probe, he might have encountered Dr. Eldritch's facility during his dimensional travels. The cub chirped again, a longer series of sounds that seemed more complex than before. The adult bears listened intently, occasionally making soft rumbling responses. "Well?" Frank asked impatiently. "What's he saying?" "He remembers," the silver-streaked female translated, her voice heavy with emotion. "He remembers being in a place that smelled of fear and sadness. A place with many small humans making crying sounds. He was only there briefly before being pushed back into the dimensional void. But he remembers." "Can he lead us there?" Maya asked. "Not directly, but he can show us glimpses of what he saw through dimensional echoes. It won't be exact, but it might give us enough information to locate Dr. Eldritch's facility." Dr. Eldritch's voice cut through their conversation. "How touching. A family reunion and a rescue planning session. But I'm afraid you're running out of time. 42 minutes now until little Zara's transformation begins." Maya turned back to the camera. "What if I come alone, like you originally wanted?" "Just me and the cub. Leave the bears out of it." "I'm sorry, my dear, but that ship has sailed. Now that I know your magical friends are involved, I need them as well. 7 children plus several adult bridgewalkers should provide more than enough power to not only open the gateway, but to keep it stable for decades." "And if we refuse?" the largest bear asked. "Then I begin the transformation process immediately, starting with the youngest. Did I mention that little Zara is the smallest of my collection? Only 11 months old. I'm curious to see how someone so young handles the binding process." Maya made a sound that was part sob, part growl. "You monster." "I prefer visionary," Dr. Eldritch replied calmly. "But we're wasting precious time. I need your decision now. Will you come to Platform 7 and cooperate with the process, or shall I begin with your daughter?" Before Maya could answer, something unexpected happened. The bear cub on her counter began to glow with a soft, ethereal light. The glow spread outward like ripples in water, and suddenly Maya could see images forming in the air around them, flashing glimpses of a sterile facility with white walls. 7 small beds, each containing a sleeping child. Zara in one of them, her tiny face peaceful but pale. Other children ranging from toddlers to preteens, all unconscious, all connected to strange machines that hummed with unnatural energy. "He's showing us," the silver-streaked female whispered in amazement. "He's sharing his dimensional memories." More images flashed. A tall man in a lab coat with silver hair and cold gray eyes. Dr. Eldritch. Banks of computer equipment monitoring the children's vital signs. And something else, something darker, lurking in the shadows of the facility. "What is that?" Frank pointed at one of the shadow shapes in the vision. The largest bear's expression grew grim. "One of the dark beings from our world. Dr. Eldritch has already allowed something through." The images suddenly shifted, showing Platform 7, but it looked nothing like the abandoned subway platform Maya remembered. Now, it was filled with technological equipment, arcane symbols carved into the walls, and a massive circular device that seemed to bend light around itself. "The gateway," the silver-streaked female breathed. "He's almost finished building it." Dr. Eldritch's voice came through the camera again, but now there was irritation in his tone. "Clever little creature. I didn't expect him to have retained such detailed memories. But those visions won't help you find my facility. I've taken precautions against magical detection." The cub chirped again, more urgently this time. New images appeared, street signs, building numbers, architectural details that Frank suddenly recognized. "Wait," Frank said excitedly. "I know that building. It's the old Metropolitan Research Institute on 5th Street. been abandoned for years. Not abandoned, Dr. Eldritch corrected with annoyance. Repurposed, and now you've seen too much. Suddenly, the three men who had been standing quietly in Maya's apartment began moving again. But this time, their movements were wrong, jerky, like puppets being controlled by someone else. He's controlling them, the largest bear realized. Everyone get back. The controlled men moved with inhuman speed and coordination, pulling out weapons that looked like a cross between guns and science fiction ray blasters. Maya had never seen anything like them. Energy disruptors, the silver-streaked female hissed, designed specifically to harm our kind. The first controlled man fired his weapon at the largest bear. A bolt of crackling energy struck the bear in the shoulder, and he roared in pain as smoke rose from his fur. The smell of burned hair filled the apartment. They can actually hurt you, Maya realized with growing horror. Dr. Eldritch has been preparing for this confrontation for a long time, the bear grimaced, clutching his wounded shoulder. He knows our weaknesses. The other controlled men were raising their weapons now, but Frank surprised everyone by tackling one of them from behind. "Get out of here!" he shouted to Maya and the bears. "I'll hold them off as long as I can." "Frank, no!" Maya screamed. But the old security guard was already wrestling with one of the controlled men for his weapon. The silver-streaked female grabbed the bear cub in her mouth, gentle but firm. "We have to go now." "I'm not leaving Frank," Maya protested. "You have to," the largest bear said, even as he dodged another energy blast. "We need you to save the children. Frank understands." Frank looked up from his struggle long enough to meet Maya's eyes. "Go save your baby, Maya. Save all of them. I'll be fine." Maya hesitated for one heartbreaking moment, then followed the bears as they crashed through her already shattered window onto the fire escape. Behind them, she could hear the sounds of fighting, Frank's voice shouting defiance at the controlled men. As they climbed down the fire escape, Dr. Eldritch's voice followed them through the cameras. "You can run, but you can't hide, Maya. I have resources throughout this city. Cameras, sensors, controlled agents. I will find you." They reached the alley behind Maya's building, and the largest bear turned to her. "We need to split up. You're too recognizable and they'll be tracking you specifically." "What do you mean?" Maya asked, though she already dreaded the answer. "You need to go back to your normal life for a few hours. Go to work, act natural, make it look like you're cooperating with Dr. Eldritch's demands. Meanwhile, we'll use the cub's memories to locate the facility and scout it out." Maya shook her head frantically. "I can't just go to work while my daughter is being held prisoner by a madman." "It's the only way," the silver-streaked female insisted. "If Dr. Eldritch thinks you're planning something, he'll move the children to a new location. We need him to feel secure, to think he's in control." "But what if something happens to Zara while I'm pretending everything is normal?" The largest bear placed a gentle paw on Maya's shoulder. "We won't let anything happen to her. I give you my word. But we need time to plan this rescue properly, and we need Dr. Eldritch to believe he's won." Maya looked up at her apartment window, where the sounds of fighting had finally stopped. She prayed Frank was okay, but there was no way to know without putting everyone else at risk. "How will I find you again?" she asked. "We'll find you," the bear assured her. "When it's time to move, you'll know." As Maya reluctantly headed toward the street to catch a bus to her job at the downtown diner, she heard Dr. Eldritch's voice one last time, drifting from the cameras scattered around the alley. 37 minutes, Maya. Don't disappoint me." Maya walked toward her normal life, knowing that nothing would ever be normal again. But she also knew something Dr. Eldritch didn't know yet. She wasn't just a frightened single mother anymore. She was part of something bigger now, something that connected both worlds, and she was going to save every single one of those children, no matter what it cost her. The hardest part was going to be pretending she didn't care while her heart was breaking for her daughter. But if that's what it took to outwit a monster, then that's exactly what Maya Chen was going to do. As she boarded the bus, Maya caught a glimpse of 3 large shapes moving through the shadows of the alley behind her. The bears were already beginning their reconnaissance mission. Soon, very soon, Dr. Eldritch was going to learn what happened when someone threatened the innocent in a world where magic was real. Maya closed her eyes and tried to calm her racing heart. In a few hours, she would either be holding Zara again, or she would be dead. But either way, this nightmare was going to end tonight. The bus pulled away from her street, carrying Maya toward what might be the longest day of her life. Behind her, in the growing darkness, ancient powers were stirring to life. The real battle was about to begin. Maya sat in the back of the bus, staring out the window at the city she thought she knew. But everything looked different now. Every shadow could be hiding one of Dr. Eldritch's agents. Every reflection in a storefront window could be concealing a camera watching her. Her phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. Act natural. We're watching over you. Your friends. Maya allowed herself a small smile. The bears were keeping their promise. The day crawled by like torture. Maya served coffee and eggs to her regular customers at the diner, forcing herself to smile and make small talk while her heart screamed for her daughter. Every time someone mentioned the time, she calculated how many minutes were left. 26 minutes, 19 minutes, 12 minutes. At exactly 5:47 p.m., with 13 minutes left until Dr. Eldritch's deadline, Maya's phone rang. The caller ID showed only a series of strange symbols that seemed to shift and move on the screen. "Maya," came the largest bear's voice through the phone. "It's time. Are you ready?" "More than ready," Maya said, stepping into the diner's back alley. "Tell me you found them." "We found them. All 7 children are in the facility, just as the cub showed us. But Maya, there's something else. Something we didn't expect." Maya's heart clenched. "What?" "Frank is alive. He's in the facility too. Dr. Eldritch is using him as additional leverage, but he's hurt. We need to move fast." Tears of relief mixed with determination flowed down Maya's cheeks. "What's the plan?" "Meet us at the old subway entrance 3 blocks from the Research Institute. The one that's been sealed for construction. We'll be waiting underground." Maya hung up and ran. She had never run so fast in her life. Dodging through traffic, leaping over obstacles, her mother's instincts giving her strength she didn't know she possessed. The sealed subway entrance was dark and apparently empty, but as Maya approached, a section of the construction barrier swung open like a hidden door. The silver-streaked female bear stood behind it. "This way, quickly." Maya followed her down into tunnels that glowed with an otherworldly light. The walls were covered in symbols that seemed to pulse with life, and the air hummed with energy that made Maya's skin tingle. "What is this place?" she whispered. "The true subway system," the bear explained as they walked. "The one that connects more than just neighborhoods. Dr. Eldritch thinks he understands the gateways, but he only sees the surface. We've been using these tunnels to travel between realities for centuries." They emerged into a vast underground chamber where the other bears were waiting. But Maya gasped when she saw they weren't alone. Dozens of other creatures filled the space. Some that looked almost human, but with eyes like starlight. Others that seemed to be made of living shadow and moonbeams. Still others that defied description entirely. "Who are they?" Maya breathed. "Guardians from many worlds," the largest bear explained. When we told them what Dr. Eldritch was planning, they came to help. No one who protects the innocent stands alone. The bear cub was there too, now glowing with such bright energy that he looked like a small star. When he saw Maya, he chirped happily and bounded over to her. He wants to help rescue the other children, the silver-streaked female translated. He feels responsible because Dr. Eldritch used him to test the barriers. Maya knelt down and gently stroked the cub's glowing fur. It's not your fault, little one. But if you want to help save them, I won't stop you. The plan is simple, the largest bear announced to the assembled group. Dr. Eldritch expects Maya to arrive at Platform 7 with just us. Instead, we're going to hit his facility directly while he's waiting for us elsewhere. But what about his deadline? Maya asked. He said he'd start the transformation if I didn't show up. One of the starlight-eyed beings stepped forward and spoke in a voice like wind chimes. Time moves differently between worlds. We can stretch this moment, make it last longer in our reality while only seconds pass in his. Maya didn't understand how that was possible, but she didn't need to understand. She just needed it to work. The rescue itself was like something from a dream. The Guardians moved through the research facility like they were made of air and light, disabling Dr. Eldritch's security systems without triggering a single alarm. Maya followed the bears through corridors that bent and twisted in ways that shouldn't have been physically possible. They found the children's room exactly as the cub had shown them. 7 small beds, 7 precious lives hooked up to machines that Maya wanted to smash with her bare hands. But she controlled herself and went straight to Zara's bed. Her daughter was pale but breathing normally, lost in what looked like a peaceful sleep. Maya disconnected the wires and monitors as gently as she could and lifted Zara into her arms. The baby stirred but didn't wake, just snuggled closer to her mother's warmth. The other Guardians were freeing the remaining children with the same careful tenderness. Maya watched as creatures of pure magic cradled human toddlers with infinite gentleness, and she understood that love was the same in every world. "Frank's in the next room," the silver-streaked female reported. "He's conscious but weak." Maya found Frank strapped to a chair in what looked like an interrogation room. His face was bruised, but his eyes were alert and angry. "Maya," he croaked as she untied him. "Did you find them? Are the kids okay?" "All safe," Maya assured him, helping him stand. "All of them." "Good." Frank nodded, then winced as the movement hurt his injured ribs. "Now, let's get out of here before that psychopath comes back." But as they made their way back through the facility's corridors, alarms suddenly began blaring. Red lights flashed, and Dr. Eldritch's voice echoed through speakers mounted in the walls. "Did you really think it would be that easy?" His cultured voice taunted them. "I've been monitoring the facility remotely. Every child you've disconnected has triggered sensors." Maya clutched Zara tighter and looked around frantically. "Can we still get out?" "The exits are sealed," the largest bear reported grimly. "He's trapped us inside." Dr. Eldritch's voice continued, filled with cold amusement. "But I'm not unreasonable. I'll make you a deal. Leave the children and go. Take your magical friends and leave the city forever. I'll find other children, other ways to power my gateway." "Never," Maya said firmly. "I thought you might say that." Dr. Eldritch sighed theatrically. "Very well. If I can't have willing cooperation, I'll simply take what I need by force." The walls around them began to change, becoming transparent like glass. Through them, Maya could see Platform 7, and her blood went cold. Dr. Eldritch was there, standing in front of his massive gateway device, but he wasn't alone. Dark shapes surrounded him, the beings from the other world he had promised to serve. They were huge, formless things that seemed to absorb light and hope just by existing. And the gateway behind them was already partially open, crackling with energy that hurt to look at. "You see," Dr. Eldritch continued, "I don't actually need the children conscious for the binding process. Unconscious will work just fine. In fact, it might be easier." Gas began hissing from vents in the ceiling. Maya felt her vision start to blur, but before she could collapse, the bear cub in her arms began to glow brighter than ever before. The cub's light cut through the gas like a sword through darkness. But more than that, it began to spread, connecting him to all the other children in Maya's arms and the guardian's care. One by one, the rescued children began to glow with the same pure light. "What's happening?" Maya asked, feeling strength return to her limbs. "They're connecting," the silver-streaked female said in wonder. "All the children with bridge-walking abilities. They're choosing to link their power together." Dr. Eldritch's voice took on a note of panic. "That's impossible. They're unconscious. They can't make that kind of choice." But Maya understood what the bears couldn't quite grasp yet. They're not unconscious anymore. They're dreaming together. And in their shared dream, they're choosing to fight back. The light from the children grew so bright that Maya could barely see, but she could feel what was happening. 7 young souls, including her precious Zara, were combining their natural bridge-walking abilities not to open gateways for Dr. Eldritch's dark masters, but to seal them forever. The walls of the facility began to crumble, but not from damage, from transformation. The children's combined power was changing the very nature of the building, turning Dr. Eldritch's prison into a bridge of light that connected directly to the platform where he waited. Maya found herself standing on Platform 7, still holding Zara, surrounded by the guardians and the other rescued children. Dr. Eldritch spun around in shock, his gray eyes wide with disbelief. "How did you—" he began, but his words were cut off as the dark beings behind him suddenly turned their attention to him instead of the children. "You promised us 7 young bridges." One of the shadow creatures spoke in a voice like grinding stone. "Instead, you bring us nothing but failure." "Wait," Dr. Eldritch pleaded, backing away from his former allies. "I can still deliver. Give me more time." But the dark beings were already turning away from him, fading back through the gateway he had worked so hard to open. As they departed, their leader's voice echoed through the platform. "Your usefulness is ended, human. Deal with your failure alone." Dr. Eldritch was left standing by his gateway device, abandoned by the powers he had served, facing 7 glowing children and their guardians. For the first time since this nightmare began, he looked like what he really was, a frightened old man who had made terrible choices. "It's over," the largest bear said simply. Dr. Eldritch looked around desperately, then lunged for the gateway controls. "If I can't open it for them, I'll destroy both worlds trying." But before he could reach the controls, Frank stepped forward. The injured security guard might have been beaten and bruised, but his spirit was unbroken. He tackled Dr. Eldritch to the ground and held him there while the starlight-eyed guardians deactivated the gateway device safely. "That's for threatening kids, you son of a bitch," Frank muttered. As the gateway device powered down, the children's glow began to fade to a gentler light. Maya looked down at Zara, who was finally waking up in her arms. The baby's eyes opened and focused on her mother's face, and Maya saw something there that hadn't been there before, a depth of understanding that seemed far older than 11 months. "She'll remember some of this," the silver-streaked female said softly. "They all will. But not as trauma, as the memory of the day they chose to protect both worlds." Maya kissed Zara's forehead and felt tears of joy streaming down her face. "Are you really okay, baby girl?" Zara gurgled and reached up to touch Maya's cheek, and in that simple gesture, Maya felt a love so pure and powerful that it seemed to fill the entire platform with warmth. One by one, the other children woke up and were reunited with their families that the guardians had quietly contacted and brought to the platform. Maya watched through happy tears as parents embraced children they thought they might never see again. Dr. Eldridge was taken away by authorities who would never fully understand what he had tried to do, but who had enough evidence of child endangerment to ensure he would never hurt anyone again. Frank was treated by paramedics who were amazed that his injuries weren't more severe. As the sun began to rise over the city, the guardians from other worlds started to fade back to their own realities. But before they left, the bear cub approached Maya one last time. He was no longer glowing, just a normal-looking bear cub who chirped softly and nuzzled against Zara's tiny hand. Zara giggled and reached out to pet his fur, and Maya saw them both surrounded by a gentle shimmer that spoke of friendship across worlds. "Will we see you again?" Maya asked the largest bear. "When you need us, we'll be there," he promised. "But I don't think you'll need us often. You've proven tonight that a mother's love is the strongest magic in any world." The silver-streaked female approached and placed something in Maya's hand, a small crystal that felt warm to the touch. "If the gateway beneath your apartment ever becomes unstable again, hold this and call our names. We'll come." Maya nodded, tucking the crystal into her pocket. "Thank you, all of you, for everything." As the bears and other guardians faded away, Maya found herself standing on the platform with just Frank, Zara, and the other human families. The abandoned subway station looked completely normal now, as if none of the night's extraordinary events had ever happened. "So," Frank said, limping over to join Maya, "think anyone's going to believe what really happened here?" Maya looked down at Zara, who was playing with the air, as if she could see magical sparkles that adults couldn't perceive. "I don't think it matters if they believe us. What matters is that the children are safe, and that they know there are people in this world, and others, who will always fight to protect them," Frank added. Maya smiled and shifted Zara to her hip. "Come on, Frank, let me buy you breakfast. After a night like this, I think we've earned some normal food in a normal diner." As they walked up the platform stairs toward the morning light, Maya heard a soft sound behind them. She turned to see the bear cub one last time, sitting by the old token booth that had started this whole adventure. He chirped once, a sound that somehow conveyed "thank you" and "goodbye" and "until we meet again" all at once. Then he simply faded away, leaving behind only the memory of magic and the promise that love, whether between a mother and child or between friends across worlds, was the most powerful force in existence. Maya hugged Zara close and walked into the sunrise, knowing that her life would never be ordinary again. But that was okay. Ordinary was overrated when you had the extraordinary gift of knowing that magic was real, that heroes came in all forms, and that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could save entire worlds. Above them, in her small apartment, Maya's phone was buzzing with missed calls from her worried sister, her boss at the diner, and several neighbors who had heard strange noises during the night. Maya Chen had a lot of explaining to do, but first, she was going to hold her daughter and remember that some stories don't need to be believed by everyone to be absolutely, wonderfully, magically true.